Well, hello everybody. Hope everybody's having a great day. Looks like it's a beautiful day here in southern Alabama. Sun's out. We're expecting a little problems later on this weekend, but who knows? We're going to talk today about the repair of refrigerators using uh, especially R600, which please don't use a torch with. But we're going to talk about the LokRing connection. So I have been certified as a LokRing trainer. I had to have a class for to get myself certified. That that in turn I can go and teach LokRing to other students, which is what we're going to do here today. We have a class, and if you'll give me just 1 second, I will tell you exactly when that class is going to be. There are, let's see, uh, there's a 4 day training, January the 20th through the 23rd, from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. You can go on the Encompass website, and you can register. That is a paid training. It does cost $975. That will get you certified in um, the LokRing method, and they also are doing a seal system for if you want to brush up on your seal system knowledge. So they can do it there. Now that will be, like I said, from January the 20th through the 23rd, and then if you hang on just 1 second, I'm about to sneeze. Oh, pardon me. I'm sorry. Um, in February, from the 10th through the 13th, there's also a 4 day seal system training, with LokRing and just regular seal system training. Um, that is uh, that is again from February the 10th through the 13th. All of these are in at the training center, Davie Training Center in Davie, Florida, is the one in February. The one in January is actually at the what am I looking at? The Lawrenceville Training Center, and that's of course at 775 Tipton Industrial Drive in Lawrenceville. So you can still register for that. You got a few days if you're in the Atlanta area, or if you could tear yourself away, since it's a little bit slower than it has been for a long time. And I know that some people I talked to a couple of technicians, and they're still kicking things out. They're booked out between 7 and 14 days. But if you've got a little dip in your time, go ahead and go ahead and register and come on to and come to the training in Lawrenceville. So if you have any questions, like I said, you can go to Encompass Training, um, and that will actually get you registered. You will have to. I think it's a prepay, so you have to pay before you get it before you enter the class. So if you have any questions, you can either scrolling across the bottom of the screen is my information, also Reggie's information. Reggie will be present at both the one in Davie, Florida, and the one in Lawrenceville. Um, I will not be there. I will be right here in Southern Alabama, for about another 3 weeks, and then we'll I'll let you know where I'm going to be the next after the 3 weeks leave. So please just go ahead and sign up. It's well worth the class. It's well worth the $975 that it costs you. I think it will actually convince you to actually use the LokRing system. One other thing that I want to go out and leave everybody with today is Thursday. Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. there is a class that is being given. There's a class out there that's being given for the sled, the air sled. That class, give me 1 second. I'm looking for it right now. It's a live Q&A, virtual, of course. It's advanced. It doesn't cost you anything. There are 3 people signed up today. So if you've got time in the morning, it's 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm in Central Standard Time, so it would be at 8 if you're in Central Standard Time. And of course, if you're Mountain, that's another hour, and then Pacific is another hour that you would have to take off. So it would be in Pacific, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4 hours earlier, which would be 5 a.m. But it would be well worth it if you have the time and can join in. It's well worth the money. They're going to talk. Like I said, it's Q&A with Air Sled. I've been a huge fan of Air Sled ever since I was a technician. We actually had, whenever I first started, we were a Whirlpool Tech Care. We did get one air sled for 15 trucks. So that didn't work out well. But one thing about the air sled is I can do it whatever I need to do with one man. I don't have to have 2 men. So one of the things that everybody asks is, how do I get these stackable washer and dryers out of a closet? Well, guess what? The air sled will help you do that. Now, will that help you get it down? No, but it will. You can inflate the air sled, pull it all the way out, and then you can work on, depending on what it is that you need to work on. If it's on the dryer, you got it. The dryer will be there at the top. If it's on the washer, depends on what kind of washing machine it is. Some of them you can access from the front. So I just wanted to take a few minutes and go through all of that. So now we're going to go ahead and start our Vulcan LokRing. So the advantages of brazing versus LokRing. LokRing is hands down. If I'm using R600, please do not use a torch on R600, because it's not a matter of if you're going to have a problem. It's a matter of when you're going to have a problem. I have seen pictures of technicians that actually use the torch, burn themselves, second and third degree burns, because basically it's a butane fuel. So it's highly flammable. It's not required that you recover it. But please don't use a torch on it. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and there we go. Okay. So some of the advantages of LokRing versus brazing: it's suitable for flammable refrigerants. So you got to have something that I'm not going to ignite myself or the customer. Customer friendly on-site service with reduced logistics cost. That kind of goes without being said. I don't have to carry as much stuff in also. It's clean, it's fast, it's reliable. I don't have to have I don't have to lug my torches in. And I don't know about you. I still have my torches. And of course, I always, whenever I had a torch, I had to have my set of torches, and I had to have my case that I had to have. With my LokRing, I've got two cases that I have to carry, and that's all it is. And that takes care of everything, since it's not required that you recover it. I can vent it into a bag that I can buy and put that into my case. So really, all I've got is these two little bags, and some hand tools. And I don't know about you, but I always carried my hand tools on a pouch on my side. That gave me just about exactly what I needed. So I just did that. It's like I said, this is clean, it's fast, it's reliable. If you do everything that you need to do, this is the way to go. If you want to try to cut corners and you don't do everything you need to do, if you don't allow it to cure in the time that is required, you're going to have problems. Plain and simple. I personally, I love this LokRing system, and I don't have to just use it on R600. I can use it on 134A. I mean, one of the things about LokRing that helps me out is if something happens and I have, if I have an evaporator leak. You used to have to go in and take and just change the evaporator out. I can actually just cut the line, take a couple of the fins out, and do the LokRing, and I'm back in business. So it's simple. It's simple assembly without power connection. So I can do this without. I don't have to have a connection. The tools are either both of the tools. One is an LJQR or something, that is a hand tool that you have to use it manually, and then they have a tool that you charge, and it's a portable hand tool, and it's just like your electric drills now. So, I mean, it's great. So, I don't really have to have a power connection. The only time I have to have a power connection is the only thing I have to have a power connection for is if I'm running my vacuum pump or my scale. The scale that they have is battery. So I don't have to have it for scales. My old dial charge. I used to plug my dial charge up in the house while I was doing all my other stuff, and that helped me get the Freon into the system a whole lot faster. So I'm telling you, I like this LokRing system. Okay, I have no heavy brazing equipment. I tell the story of whenever I was training a young technician, and I told him, "Hey, listen, you need to do this. You need to do this." I got a phone call. I said, "Hang on just 1 second. Turn the torch off, and I'll be right back. I've got to step outside." So I went outside. I came back. Whenever I came back, he didn't turn the torch off, and literally had melted the liner in the in the refrigerator. So needless to say, my boss was not real happy with me, and I wasn't real happy with him. That technician did make a really good technician, but the first thing that he learned was that you actually have to listen to your instructor. Okay, yeah, you're gonna have to pardon me. I have a little thing in my throat here, a little tickle. I have no brazing. for the brazing, the quality that I could have with brazing. Not only the quality, but it's not, I'm always going to have a flame. And if any of that comes in contact with this this butane, it will ignite. And I have seen pictures of technicians that it ignited and it literally melted the curtains and the windows because they couldn't get it out fast enough. I had a technician that I trained on the LokRing brazing in Dallas, and he was telling me that he was training one of the other guys on not using the LokRing, and whenever they tried to do it with a torch, it literally just about melted their shop totally to the ground before they could get it all out. So yeah, just don't use a torch on LokRing, please. I mean on your R600. One of the other things, I want you to take a look at this. If you look at the one on the top there, that's where it's been brazed. As you can tell, if you look on the inside, this is a cutaway. There are all kinds of little particles that can get discharged from that joint right there. So I could with it doing that, I could have a restriction that comes into play. So I've got to be careful that I have a good clean joint. The LokRing system, as long as I'm doing it like it's supposed to be done, I will never have any problems with the LokRing. Okay, it will, as long as it's cured properly. I use the correct amount. As long as I'm using the correct amount and putting it together and then spinning it up a couple of times, complete turns around, I should have no problems. Let it cure, and I'm set and ready to go, and I should not have any leaks. Okay, so we're going to go through some of the applications that you can use. That it's basically endless possibilities that you can have. Like I said, one of the things that you can do is you can actually do steel to steel. And if you're good at brazing, you can tell that sometimes steel to steel is some of the hardest connections you ever have to make. The other thing is joining aluminum to copper and steel to copper. Those are all difficult things. With a LokRing, I don't have to have number one, I have no flame. Number two, I can easily put the pieces together. Like I said, seal them properly, and I will not have any leak. Okay. So household refrigeration, appliances, your refrigerators, your freezers, your wine coolers. Everybody seems to be having a wine cooler in their home now. So I can use that for my wine coolers. I can do a ready to use refrigerator equipment. My refrigeration cabinets, which is there on the right hand side over here. For a bar, if I'm working on bars, I can do bars. If I have a locker, I can do lockers. If I have a chiller, I can do it on a chiller. Now, the thing about a chiller and some of the bars, you may have to go to the next size up, size fitting, but it will handle that. Okay. So here you're looking at taps for a bar. So refrigeration equipment for catering, our countertop refrigerators, our flow-through coolers, our portable cooling systems. This here is taps for a bar, and this would be your taps that you need for your beer. Okay, our functional principle. Okay, of the LokRing system. So this, if you look at down below, there's 1 that's a joint, 2 are the rings, 3 is the lock prep. Okay, which is an anabolic sealant. Okay, so number 1 is the joint. So you can see the joint right there on the right hand side. You can see the joint that you have. Then number 2 are the rings. Okay, and then number 3 is lock prep. So if you look at the very top, right above where it says joint, ring, and lock prep, above that, you can see that is actually the joint that's on the left. The 2 rings are right there in the center, and then the lock prep is on the right. Okay, insertion for the connection. This is the one thing you've got to be sure that you do. It's imperative that you do it properly, and you do it just like this. Okay, number 1, if you look at A, that's the insertion area. Okay, so that's where you have to put it in, and you have to go to the stops. Okay, B is the stabilization and sealing area, so that's where you're going to get a seal. Okay, number C is the sealing, the main sealing area. Okay. So possibilities with LokRing. Okay. Repair here. I can replace a compressor. I can repair a dryer. I can replace a charging tube, and repair leaky brazed connections. One of the things that whenever I was a technician, we had a couple of technicians, and I always end up going behind people and fixing their joints because they overheated their joints, and they caused problems. And then you have to go back and you have to take off the filter dryer. Make sure that I blow through that and get my to get all of my any contamination that's in there out with nitrogen. So it's just great. Okay, so CU stands for copper. Okay. ST stands for steel. AL, of course, is aluminum. So here's the materials and the combination of materials that you have. If you have copper to copper, okay, that's this joint right here. Okay, that's my copper to copper joint. Okay, if I have copper to steel, I don't see my copper to steel joint. So I don't have one. I thought I had one, but I'm wrong. Okay, I don't have any copper to steel. Steel to steel, I don't have one of those either. But I have an aluminum to aluminum. That's this joint right here. Okay. If I have an aluminum to copper, where's it at? There's an aluminum to copper. Okay. Aluminum to steel. Of course, I don't have one of those because I don't have any steel connections. But that gives you an idea of just how versatile this is. There's nothing I can do in refrigeration for appliances that I have to have that I can't do with LokRing. Okay, so you can buy a starter kit. As you can tell, this starter kit has everything that you need. This is actually an old starter kit. There has been 2 updates to this starter kit, and they have gone from that steel box. The next one was a complete. It's a container and it is you can carry it on a flight and you won't have anything to break. This one I have to have it in something not so that it won't pop open and break. The new one is something that I would have to put into my luggage because it's about the size of that one that we have pictured here, but it won't withstand pressures like if somebody sat something on it. The other one that we used to have, you could jump up and down on it. As a matter of fact, the old joke about having the monkey jump up and down on it. So what comes in this starter kit? I got a hand assembly tool. I get an assemble the assembly jaws. It comes with 2 sizes. I have lock prep. I have sandpaper. I have dryers. I have straight connectors. I have reducing connectors. Everything that I need is in this kit. Okay, we're going to go, and I am going to. I'm going to stop just a second here. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. We're going to talk about this HMRKV assembly tool. Okay. So one of the things that you really have to do when you get this, you have got to maintain it. Okay. You've got to have a PMP plan. Okay. So what do I need so that I can clean my tool and maintain it properly? Okay. I need a multi-purpose lubricant, a 3-in-1 oil, a small flat tip screwdriver. I'm going to need a scribe. I'm going to need a wire brush. I'm going to need some acetone, some WD-40, and of course some rags that are clean. Okay. So one of the things, this scribe, if you look right there on the bottom right, you really need that, and I'll show you why. Okay, so this tool. So one of the things that I've got to do is I have got to apply lubricant. Okay, between the upper handles, between the upper and lower handles, I have to apply lubricant. Between the pawl and the handle, I've got to apply lubricant. Okay, and you get this in the kit. This is in the kit that whenever you buy your LokRing kit, it comes in it. Okay, so then I have to come in and I have to excuse me. I have to clean this. Okay, the first thing that I do is I take, and if you notice, there's chains. I'll actually wipe the chain, and then I will use my 3-in-1 oil and lubricate each one of these points. Okay, I'm going to apply 3-in-1 oil between the drive pawl and the handle. I'm going to apply it on the chain itself and the wheel. I'm going to apply it between the handle, the adjustment handle, and the fixture. I'm going to apply it between the handle, adjustment paw, and the handle itself. Then, of course, you can see each one of these and where I've got to apply it to. So, like I said, I'm going to wipe up. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe down any excess lubricant. Okay. Now, I will tell you that the last time that I did a class, we spent 30 minutes cleaning the tool because whoever had it before us, they hadn't cleaned it. And it was so gunked up that we had to take acetone, put the jaw in a cup of acetone, let that go ahead and kind of melt the acetone, melt the lock prep. Then after we let it sit for 10 to 15 minutes, we were able to go in with our scratch awl or our pick, and I could go in and pick it, and we got it clean. Okay, so you remove the hard lock prep with a small screwdriver or a scribe. Like I said, I used a scribe and a pick. Then I can scrub my jaw with a wire brush to remove any remaining lock prep. You may have to do this 2 or 3 times. So once I get done with all of that, and I've cleaned this tool and I've wiped down any excess, I'm going to go ahead and take WD-40 and spray it right where that that arrow is in that first picture. I'm going to spray it right there and kind of coat it around there. And then once I get done, I'm going to wipe it off. That will help. That will help prevent any excess buildup. Why do I get excess buildup? It's because I have used too much lock prep. Okay. If you want this, you can actually go to www.vulcan.com. Okay. I'm going to give you just a minute if you need to write that down. Okay. This is the pre-assembly tool. Once again, this is something that you will have to order a different thing. It doesn't come in the kit. So I'm going to have to order these 2, 4, 6 parts. And that will actually help me to be able to use the pre-assembly tool. So what my pre-assembly tool does is that it allows me to use my jaws and go ahead and compress one whole side of it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my calipers and I'm going to measure the size of the tubing. Once again, we're going to get on down a little bit farther, and we'll go through each one of these to show. But this has some very good information in it. So I'm going to take my pre-assembly tool. I'm going to identify the size of the tubing that I'm going to need. I'm going to select the pre-assembly tool. I'm going to use the pre-assembly tool. I'm going to measure it, as you can see in the third photo. Then I'm going to stack the part up. Okay, going to clean it. Going to apply and rotate my lock prep. And then I'm going to rotate it. Once I do that, I can insert the tube and the pre-assembly tool. I'm going to begin to close one side of the connection. I'll stop about 2 to 3 millimeters short of completion. Do not fully close that connector with the assembly tool installed. Okay, doing so will break the internal tube stop, because the metal in the pre-assembly tool is actually harder than the brass. Okay, so once I do that, I can then do the exact thing on the other side, and then I'm going to go ahead and close the other side, and after I've done the clean, the lock prep, and then rotating it again, I'm ready to go. Then I'll close the other side of that connection. Once I do that, you can see right there that connection is completed. Okay. If you look at this connection, let me get up here. There it is right there. That is a totally completed tool. Okay. I don't think I kept it. I had one that a student used that would have this one right here is going to be pretty close. So if you look at this, you see right here, you can see the marks that the H mark tool was, and it wasn't put in properly. So this one right here might leak. That's the reason that if I tell you the thing that I had to do, I'm not going to lie to you. I am an expert, or I used to be an expert when it came to a torch. But with this assembly tool, I had never used one before, and I actually had to take the class twice before I got confident enough to be able to to teach the class. Okay. So once again, if you need further information, you can do it right there with the same Vulcan.com. Okay, we're going to go back and we're gonna start back to the with the starter kit where we left off at. Okay. Oh, I meant to ask. Let me go back. I don't want to think that you to think that I didn't listen to you. Does anybody have any questions so far on the assembly tool, on the stop, any of those? One thing that I really like about the stop is, you know how whenever I was coming out and coming up and starting in this business, which was 48 years ago, I literally, if you got a compressor and it was bent, one of the lines was bent off of the compressor, I couldn't do it. I had to go get another compressor. Nothing made you any madder than having to you waited on the compressor. You finally got in the compressor. You unbox it at the I always you do this one time. I unboxed it after twice. I unboxed it at the parts house because I didn't want it one that I had to bring back. So what I always told people was unbox it before you leave the parts house. But if I'm if I'm not there picking the part up and it gets delivered and the guy from at our shop, we had a parts guy. That parts guy didn't check it. I always had to check it at the parts house, and then nine times out of 10 it was okay. But that one time, that was always the customer that was always mad because they had already been waiting a week. Okay, so one thing about this, I can actually cut that off, and I can cut that copper, and I can put another tool in there, and I can actually make it so that we're going to go through that later, a little bit later on. I can actually make it so that I can go through and fix the compressor so that I don't have to send it back. Okay, so my dryer selection, I'm going to, of course, you look at it here. I have one right here. Okay, this is my dryer connection. You can tell there's the capillary tube right here. It's what comes off, and this is the copper that goes into it. Okay, now you may have a copper line that excuse me. Some of these are aluminum now instead of copper, so you have to be careful. But my steel to copper, which is what comes off. That's, if you look at one, there's a steel to copper fitting for my filter dryer. Where's my filter dryer? Okay, here's my filter dryer. So I can actually put my tube here, and excuse me. So my tube that goes to my here to my filter dryer. Okay, this is where the tube goes. So we're all set. It actually works really well. So let's go here. Okay, this is our filter dryer. Once again, this is designed for the LokRing. If you notice, it has, which is what this is. I have one that I got from Encompass for my LokRing, and I like it because I can actually tap right into it. It's for all HC and HFC refrigerants. I can use it on either way. So my 134A, my R22, my R502, I can do that. Or I've got any of the R600s. I can do that. So all I got to do is put it in properly and make sure that it's facing the right way, and I should be good. So my evaporator section. So I've got a capillary tube here, and that goes to the evaporator, and the other side, of course, is aluminum. That's this fitting right here. Okay, goes from my capillary tube to my aluminum, which it goes to the evaporator. And then, of course, there is one that's an evaporator that is a I thought I had one. Okay, I apologize. I don't have any more. I don't know what happened to it. I don't see it. But that's also the suction line. So it will, you can, of course, that's two fittings right there. So you have to price it accordingly. My condenser, here's my condenser possibilities. So I can repair anything that I need. If I have this split condenser, it's going to require 3 fittings for me. So, I've got a back plate, I've got a hot gas link, and then I've got the side plate condenser. So I really can do anything that I need to do with LokRing. I don't have to have, I do not have to have a whole bunch of fittings like I used to have in my torch box. And I always had to carry flux. I had to carry my I used to carry both a hard solder, silver solder, and a soft solder, because you just never knew what you're going to get into. So I always made sure that I had everything that I need, including my sandpaper. Now, one of the things that you're still going to have to do is you have to sand. And I will tell you that when it comes to sanding, I do it a little different than they do. Okay. My compressor section, my repair possibilities, I can actually put a joint in there that has off the low side, and I can fit it so I can just charge off of that, or I can use the compressor hot gas side. Okay. So these are the technical specifications for every LokRing that we normally deal with. For appliances, it's a type 00. Okay. My technical specifications, you can see right there. There is a wide variety of your specifications. My maximum operating pressure is 360 psi. My temperature range is minus 58 degrees Fahrenheit up to 302 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay. My tube range with LokRing is 1.6 millimeters up to 11 millimeters, which is 1/16 of an inch up to 3/8. Okay. Minimum tube wall thickness is 0.5 millimeters. Okay. So it's a very well based. We have everything done. So one of the things that they do with LokRing is they have a huge facility in Germany. Okay. They're ISO 14903 compliant. That was done in Germany. How are these tested? They do a tightness test before the load test. They do a fatigue test. They do a freezing test, a vibration test, a pressure test, a cycle test, a vacuum test, then another pressure test for static pressure, and then tightness test after the loads test. So they go from A to Z to make sure that if you're installing it properly, that you have no problems. Okay, sorry about that. Now we're back at it. So this is the fatigue test. So what they actually do is they take this and they cycle it 250,000 cycles between the maximum operating pressure and the atmospheric pressure. Okay. So then after they finish that, they have the freeze test. Okay. So they test the samples. They submerge the samples in a container underwater. The pressure above the water surface is reduced below 500 millibars, which is 7.5 psi for 10 minutes. Okay. They trap the air, disappears from all of the cavities. While restoring normal ambient air temperature, the cavities fill up with water. Okay. The test 2, they test the samples are placed in the freezer for at least 30 minutes at a maximum of 5 degrees Fahrenheit. Our test samples are placed into water at room temperature, and then they thaw it for 5 minutes. They test it for leaks again. Okay. Our vibration test. This is probably one of the most important ones. That's so that, as your refrigerator starts and stops, you always have a vibration on the tubing. So they want to make sure that if I have vibration on my tubing, that the LokRing holds. So they do 2 million load cycles. The frequency that they use is about 200 megahertz or 200 hertz. The amplitude depends on the size of the connection. So depending on what the size of the copper is that's what the thing is dependent on. So they pressure test, the cycle test, the pressure temperature cycle test. Okay. So they do step 1, they do 50 cycles, alternating between the minimum temperature and the maximum temperature. When the maximum temperature is reached, test samples will be inflated to maximum operating pressure for 2 minutes. Okay. Then they move to step 2. They do 200 cycles. A maximum temperature is held. The pressure alternates between atmospheric pressure and the maximum operating pressure. One of the things that you will find out is if you're doing this test properly, the copper tubing will blow before the seal for that we insert into the tubing. So the next thing is a vacuum test. They do a 1 hour duration. The temperature is 68 degrees Fahrenheit. The maximum pressure rise can only be 0.2 kilobar. Okay. So they do a static pressure test at that point. They do a 1 minute. Then they pressure test 5 cycles to maximum operating pressure or theoretically maximum load of the tube. Okay. This is what I was talking about. The LokRing connection should always be stronger than the tube. They always find that this blows out the copper, not the LokRing. So if you're doing this properly, you don't have a leak, and you actually will have the tube blow out before you get anything else. So after they get done, they do a tightness test. After they do all the load tests, okay, they use helium gas. It's at 68 degrees Fahrenheit. They have 145 psi difference. Okay, the maximum leakage rate. If you look at this is 7.5 times 10 to the minus 6 millibar. That is so small, you probably would have a week before it would start to leak. So that's the reason you need to make sure that you do it properly, because it will take it a while. Okay, so this is the HMRKV assembly tool. This was specially developed for the LokRing assembly. It's patented lever action mechanical assembly with the minimum effort. Okay, so my assembly jaws are easy to change if I've got different tube diameters that I have to use. I told you that there were 2 different assembly jaws for your basic refrigeration work. Okay, both handles bend for use in hard to reach places. It's German technology. So right here is our jaws. So if you look at right here, we have a double-sided assembly of 00 connections. I have a MB8 for tubing for tube outer diameter of 1.6 to 8.5. In other words, 1/16 of an inch to 5/16. And then there's a 10 MB for the tubing, the outer tubing between a 9 to 11 millimeters. So basically 3/8 tubing. Okay. Now, this is the most important thing that you need to remember if you're going to do LokRing. Number one, if you look at this lock prep, okay, 65G is the type of lock prep that you need to have. If you're using any other lock prep, it's not made for refrigeration for appliances. Okay. On the bottom, if you look on this container itself, if you look, it says lock prep 65G. Then it gets really big, and it says LokRing, a Vulcan LokRing. Just under that is a date. You have got to have the lock prep has got to be newer than 1 year. If it's 1 year or older, throw it away. I always tell people, if I'm getting within a month, if I'm 10 months out, I throw it away. I don't want to. This is not like I was at the doctor's office, and I had some old medicine at the house, and it had expired, and I was talking to the doctor, and the doctor says, "Well, don't worry about it. That's just a suggestion." Well, this is not a suggestion. If this is older than a year, it won't work. Okay, so what is my function of lock prep? Okay, I have to go in and I have to clean everything. Whenever I go in and I use my sandpaper and clean it, I'm going to have these tiny, tiny, tiny grooves. Okay, that lock prep fills those grooves. Okay, it compensates for any unevenness in the tube surface. It hardens under under oxygen exclusion and in a contact with free metal ions. It stays elastic, and it ensures that every lock room connection is hermetically sealed. You guys are going to have to pardon me. I seem to have come up with my nose is starting to stop up. Okay. Assembly instructions for LokRing connectors for appliance, for refrigeration, appliance refrigeration. Okay. This right here is the method that I use. Okay. If you look, they have a different method on the slide. I use this method. I have used this method ever since I first started back in 1978. Okay. I call it the wrap method. Okay. I wrap it over twice, and I use that to this up and down motion from left to right to to clean the tubing. Okay. They used to have, and I've got some somewhere, it's probably not good anymore, but the copper tubing, if it was copper, all I had to do was paint the stuff, and it would clean the ends. But I don't know if that ever really, I never had any problems, but I don't think they still make that. But so I'm going to clean my tubing ends in a rotational motion to ensure that they are clean and free from paint and other surface impurities. So if you look at it, every time you're going to do this, you need to clean the fitting, just like you do whenever you're using a torch, because the solder may not stick. Same thing with lock prep. If I'm not sanded it, it may not stick. Okay, I'm going to apply my LokRing 65G to the tube ends right here. Do not do it all at the same time. Do one side, put it in, twist it. Then I put my other side in. I push it all the way in on both sides. Twist it again. Like I said, I usually twist it about 2 rotations. You only have to do it as one, but I always tell everybody to do it with 2 rotations. Okay. Insert both tubings to the LokRing connector, and then until the tubing ends touch, rotate the LokRing connector 360 degrees for this, so that it gets all the lock prep evenly distributed. I'm going to respect the correct curing time of the lock prep. That's the other thing that I told you at the very beginning. You have got to respect the curing time. If I do not let it sit, I will have a leak. The colder it gets, the longer you have to let it cure. Okay, so I'm going to put this joint. I'm going to push the rings into the joint assembly with the assembly instructions below here. Okay, so I'm going to press the tubing connector until the rings of the LokRing connector are flush to the assembly stop of the LokRing connector. If you look at the first one there, that's the first. That's where I've got it, and I've just started it. Then I'm going to use my assembly tool. I'm going to hold it in my hand. I'm going to crank that one side down while I'm holding the actual joint itself with my fingers, that I'm holding the HM tool, and I'm going to keep cranking on it, and then till it stops. And you see right there on the bottom right hand side where it stops. Okay, so respect the curing time. It's got to be 10 minutes if it's above 70 degrees. If it's 0, you might as well pack a lunch, because you're going to be there for a while. Okay, my Vulcan LokRing customer support, the training support right here. This is what we've just been through. We go through an in-depth LokRing theory, which is what we just did. We're going to do at the school. You're going to have a practice session, and then after the practice session, there will be a certification test, and you have to complete both the practice satisfactorily, and then you have to get at least 80% of your questions correct in your certification test. I will tell you that some of the questions that are there, I made notes my second time. I didn't the first time because I thought I could just remember it all. I would advise you that if you're going and you're going to get certified with LokRing, please take yourself a notepad and a pen or pencil, whatever you want, a writing utensil. Okay. Your lockbox presentation. So this right here is good because it shows you exactly what it's supposed to look like. As you can tell, I basically have them all. I've got almost every one of those that are in that lockbox prep. So, I mean, I basically got them all in here. There was just those two that I didn't have that I have somewhere. I just don't see them right here. I thought I had them in the container, but I don't. Okay. So here's your technical information. Again, this is all available on your Vulcan.com. You can get a catalog. You can get the brochures. You can get videos, assembly instructions, your technical documentation. All of that comes. Okay. So, in conclusion, like I said, I really like. There we go. I really do like LokRing. I think that everybody, I personally, they have come down in price. If anybody, let's see, Ron White looks like. What are the most common fittings Whirlpool uses? Whirlpool is, I'm trying to think of what they are. I'll tell you what, Ron, the easiest way for you to find out is to go onto the Encompass website, and they have it broken down for manufacturer. Really, the most common one in an aluminum is this 8mm. Then, of course, you've got this one that is either the copper to aluminum or the aluminum to copper on those. Usually, like I said, you have to use every single one. They are out on the Compass website. There are kits for that are broken down for Whirlpool, and you can order just those kits. If it were me, unless you're a Whirlpool Tech Care service, I'm not even sure that's even a thing anymore. It's Whirlpool Tech Care. But if I'm not a Whirlpool Tech Care, if I'm going to do it on a Frigidaire, a Samsung, a Whirlpool, I would a Viking, a Wolf Viking. It's Wolf/Viking now. I'm sorry, it's Wolf Sub-Zero. If I'm working on a Sub-Zero, if I'm not where I just do Whirlpool, I would order the whole kit. Yes, it's a little bit expensive, but you're going to, whenever you first get it, they're going to give you a vast array of of fittings, and then I would just keep track of them to know me which one I'm going to use the most. Did that answer your question, Ron? And if you are a Whirlpool Tech Care, talk to your regional manager with Whirlpool, and he should be able to furnish you with that information. Okay. Does anybody else have any questions?